The weight of her father's journal was heavy in her lap as Elara sat at her usual spot by the window. The fog outside clung to the skyline, making the city feel even more distant, as if it were a world away from where she sat now. She glanced down at the journal again, unsure where to begin. The pages were filled with cryptic notes, symbols she didn't recognize, and passages that seemed more like poetry than anything concrete. Her father had always been a man of few words, but what he had written here felt like the fragmented pieces of a puzzle. Elara traced a finger over the lines of his handwriting, her heart aching. She had spent years searching for some kind of connection to him, and now here it was, right in front of her. But the journal raised more questions than it answered. "What is this place, Dad?" she whispered to herself, flipping through the pages. "And why were you here?" The sound of footsteps approached, and she looked up to see Reid standing beside her. His dark eyes lingered on the journal, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "You found it," he said, his voice low. Elara nodded, closing the book carefully. "Oren gave it to me. He said it belonged to my father." Reid's expression was hard to read, but there was a sense of understanding in his gaze. "Your father was important to this place." Reid leaned against the worn wooden table, crossing his arms as he studied her, his gaze thoughtful. "Your father had a way of seeing things," he said slowly. "Most people who walk through these doors feel the strangeness of this place, but few ever understand it. Your father did. He was one of the few who could walk between worlds and still stay grounded." Elara frowned, her fingers still resting on the journal. "Walk between worlds? What does that even mean?" Reid hesitated, as though searching for the right words. "The sky lantern, it's more than a pub. It's a threshold. Some say it stands where the veil between our world and the other side is thinnest. Spirits, lost souls, and creatures you wouldn't believe, they're all drawn here, and most don't realize why. Your father did." Elara's pulse quickened. The sense of something vast and unknowable lurked at the edges of his words. "So, he was what, a medium? Some kind of guardian?" Reid gave a slight nod. "In a way. He was one of the keepers, someone who could help guide those who were lost and help those on the other side find peace. But it came with a price. The more time he spent here, the more it changed him." Elara swallowed, the knot in her stomach tightening. "And that price, was that why he died?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered. Reid looked away, a shadow passing over his face. "Maybe. Sometimes, the truth isn't something we can understand, even if we see it." Elara's hand tightened around the journal. She wanted answers, but the more she heard, the more impossible it all seemed. This was her father they were talking about, a man she remembered as strong and steady, not someone who dealt with spirits or haunted pubs. "But why didn't he tell me any of this?" she murmured, more to herself than to Reid. "If he was involved in something so strange, why did he hide it from me?" Reid's gaze softened. "Maybe he was trying to protect you. The things that happen here, they are not for everyone to bear. The Sky Lantern isn't just a pub, it's a test. It reveals things about people they may not be ready to face." Elara shivered, feeling the weight of those words settle over her. She looked around the dimly lit room, the flickering candles casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly, the pub felt different, darker, as though secrets lurked in every corner. Taking a deep breath, she flipped open the journal again, determined to find some clarity. This time, she focused on a passage near the middle, written in her father's familiar scrawl. "There is no light without darkness, no peace without chaos. The lantern bridges the worlds, and in doing so, becomes a place of both salvation and danger. I stay because I must, though I fear the cost will grow greater every day. Tonight, I saw her, the woman in red. She warned me that time is running out." Elara's breath caught in her throat. The woman in red? Her father had written about her. She remembered seeing glimpses of a figure in the shadows, always just out of reach, like a fleeting ghost haunting the edge of her vision. "Who's the woman in red?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Reid's eyes darkened. "A spirit. Some say she's a lost soul trapped between worlds. Others say she's something darker. She's known to haunt this place, appearing to those who seek answers, or those who are too close to the truth. Elara shivered. The pub was alive with secrets, and every piece of the puzzle only deepened the mystery. But one thing was clear, her father had been drawn here, pulled into a web of the supernatural that had claimed him. Then I'll find her, Elara said, steeling herself. If she has answers, if she knows anything about what happened to my father, I need to speak to her. Reid's expression hardened. Be careful, Elara. Spirits like her, they don't always have good intentions. And the closer you get to the truth, the more dangerous this place will become. She nodded, though her heart raced with a mixture of fear and determination. Whatever dangers lay ahead, she couldn't turn back now. The Sky Lantern had taken her father, and if she was going to save her family's legacy, she would need to face the darkness head-on. As she rose to leave, Oren called out to her from behind the bar. Elara, take this. He handed her a small silver pendant, etched with a symbol she didn't recognize. It belonged to your father, he said, his voice low. He believed it would protect him. Maybe it'll do the same for you. Elara nodded, slipping the pendant over her neck. Its weight felt reassuring against her chest, a tangible reminder of her father's presence. With one last glance at Reid and Oren, she left the pub, stepping out into the foggy night. The mist clung to her as she made her way back home, her mind racing with questions. The woman in red, the journal, the pendant, all pieces of a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. But one thing was certain, she was in deeper than she had ever imagined, and there was no turning back now.